So our agenda for today, we're going to go through the onboarding template. That's a template that you can download and use straight away. That's kind of set up for you. Then we'll talk through what it looks like to onboard someone into ClickUp. So if you have a new staff member, what resources are available to have them trained in ClickUp so they're ready to go. And then we'll kind of dive into building a kind of a more complete training for anything on ClickUp, or alternatively just creating resources and materials on ClickUp for people in your company to use, or et cetera, et cetera. Question, do we have these onboarding trainings often? We do webinars about once a week, but we do change topic. So one good thing to note is this is the beginner webinar for, that is incorrect, for training and onboarding. Next week, we'll have an advanced webinar for training and onboarding. Okay, so at the end, we'll jump to questions. For now, let's jump into ClickUp. Cool. Okay, so first I want to talk about onboarding. So generally, onboarding is a series of steps, actions, or events that new staff members or those people onboarding them will go through. So it's good to track these to ensure everything important has happened and to give a new staff member a roadmap of what to expect. So that's what we're going to be kind of looking at with the onboarding section. So first I want to show you the onboarding template. So if you have a space, here I've just got a new one, a fresh one, click on the plus button to the right hand side of it. This gives you the option for creating new folders and lists. I'm going to go down to the bottom here to templates. Now I've got my workspace templates that I've created. I'm going to go to the ClickUp templates that were kind of pre-created by us for you. Now in here, I'm actually just going to search for onboarding. And we can see I've got this employee onboarding one here. I'm going to select that and say use template. So this is going to import that template directly into my account. And so now I can see, how the ClickUp team has designed and created this. And it's not going to fit me exactly because it can't fit everyone, but it is going to give me the right idea for how it could look and how I could create it for myself. So if we open this folder, we can see here we've got a list for different departments. And in each department, there's a series of steps that they need to go through. And in this case, kind of like some of the steps are in progress, some of them are halfway through, some of them haven't started yet. Okay, so yeah, this will be different for each company. So just kind of have a look at this and maybe import it into your ClickUp as well, and just adjust it from there to match, first of all, the steps that you need, but also the different kind of sections of your business that you might be onboarding. It might be that you only have one and you just have one onboarding list, or you might have different departments with slightly different onboarding sequences for people going into each of those departments. Okay, so what I would suggest is kind of adjusting these, rename them, and then adding new tasks to kind of match the different steps that you want new people to take. Within a task, you can put some information such as a description. This might be some text kind of describing how this is going to happen or what they need to do, or maybe it's training content. So, in this case, learn Facebook Business Manager. There might be a description of what they need to learn. You can also link to some things. So if we just type in a link to some other external training resource, you can put links in here. You can also, if you type in the slash command /embed, you can then embed videos and other content here as well. So if you did have, particularly it's useful for videos, but you could do a website as well that you want them to look at or go to. That can all kind of exist in the description here. Okay. And then you have kind of a range of other things here. In particular, it might be subtasks. So if you do want them to take steps that are kind of part of this bigger step, you can break it out into different subtasks. You can also add checklists and give them a name. So for example, you might say, take a test afterwards, and we can simply add items that are to do. So, do this, and then do this. And if it's generally a checklist, then just go down and tick each one off. If it is more like a test, then that'll just tick off the ones that are the correct answers, for example, depending on how you want to use that. Right. So what we'll do then, once this is kind of all done, is we'll save it again as a template. So now that it's kind of adjusted to match us and our company. You could save each individual list as a template, and then when you have a new marketing person, you might use the marketing template for them. Or you might have a general one, like one is, let's rename this one to general. And so every new person does the general one as well as the specific one for their department. So a new person in marketing does general and marketing. A new person in client success does general and client success. Or you could just save the whole folder as a template, and then each time a new person comes on board, you use the folder template and just delete the ones that they don't need. In my case, I think I'm going to save it just as the individual lists. So I'll click on the 3 dots beside the list name here and go save as template. I'll give it a name. So in this case, I'm going to say general onboarding. Cool, create new template. I'm going to say for everyone, so everyone has access to this template. That's fine. I'm not going to publicly share it. It's just for us. And I'll include everything that was in this template. That's fine. So I'll hit save there. Now I've got that one. And now I'm also going to save the client success one. Save as template. And I'll just say CS onboarding. Create new template, save template. Cool. Now, when a new person were to come on board, what I would do, depending on how you want to set things up, is I'd make them each their own folder. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just delete this. I no longer need this folder. So, quick overview of the hierarchy rather in ClickUp. This kind of everything level. This is just shows everything in your entire ClickUp workspace, and then you have individual spaces. So for onboarding, there's a good chance that you would have a space just for onboarding where new people kind of start out and they go through their onboarding tasks. Or alternatively, you could have within each area that you have, say you had spaces for departments. So you had one for project management, one for marketing, one for sales, etc. You might have an onboarding folder inside of each of those spaces. So, whichever works best for you. In this case, I'm going to treat it as just one space. And so I'll make a folder for each new staff member. So let's say that Stacy is coming on board. So I'll create a folder for her. And she's going to be CS. So I'm going to go to the plus button beside this folder and say list from template. And I want to choose my general onboarding. And I click that use button there. That will just use the template immediately without kind of looking at the details. So if you want to be quick, you can use that one. Let's also look at our CS onboarding one. In this case, I'll just click on it. And here we have the option to give it a different name. I'm actually not going to enter that because I'm happy with CS onboarding. What to import? I'm going to import everything, and whether I want to remap any due dates. And for now, I'll leave that as well. And then hit use template. Nope, in this case, I do need a name. So let's just type in CS onboarding and use template. Give it a second, and then it will pop up here. Now, I also want to delete this kind of pre-made list. It just comes with each folder, but it's got nothing in it, so I'll get rid of that. And so now I have Stacy's folder, and I have general onboarding and CS onboarding. So now she can go to her folder and see all of those tasks at once and tick them off as she goes through. Awesome. Okay, so that's a bit of an idea of how to onboard someone into your company based on customized steps. Right, I'm just checking, have I gone over everything that's useful here? One thing that I haven't gone over is, so within each task, you can have material here for them to review. You can have sub items down here for them to do, subtasks and checklists. One thing that's useful to note is you also have comments over here. So it might be that you need to introduce them to people throughout the company, or maybe get help with things. And so you could instruct them, probably in the description, to do that. So here they can mention someone and then say hello. and perhaps get to know someone. Or alternatively, if you have kind of information you need to check that they've reviewed, what you could do is at the end of it is say, please write a comment answering this question, and then have a one or several concept checking questions, in which case they'll write the answer there. And then depending on how you want to organize it, they might just tag the reviewer. The reviewer might just be watching it. You might use an automation, however, but the reviewer might come in, look at that comment, the answer that they put, and then kind of let them know if they've gotten something wrong, or work with them on making sure that's correct. You can also obviously assign this to the person. So I don't have Stacey in here yet. Let's say it was Shane instead. We could assign these tasks to Shane. Give them a priority if we do want to have them do certain ones before other ones. You can also give them a due date, either here or here, if we do want to kind of order their onboarding. So we say, okay, we expect you to do these 3 today, these 2 tomorrow, etc., etc. And this task will probably take about 3 hours. All this is optional, you don't need it, but if you would like to enter those things, that's fine. Watches will be interesting. So watches is who gets notifications about this task. So if you are the one who is onboarding someone else and you want to be updated about when their tasks are complete or when they've entered their responses, it would be good to make yourself a watcher. And you can simply click on your name here. Okay. That's about it for onboarding people into your company. But let's have a look at specifically onboarding people into ClickUp. So you have staff members who are obviously coming onto your company, joining your company, but also need to learn how to use ClickUp since that's what you're using in your company. So we've got a few resources here that I'd like to show you. So first of all, we've got a couple of templates. So if we again go into the plus button on a space and templates here, click up templates. And the first one I'll show you is remote onboarding. So we've got a remote work section. You can also search for this, and remote onboarding. And this is just kind of helping people understand ClickUp when you're not able to be there beside them. So it's basically just a list of helpful steps to kind of get to know ClickUp, starting with collaborating with tasks, organizing the hierarchy, etc., etc. So that can be quite useful. I would suggest if you're new to ClickUp yourself, you're better off using a different template to kind of understand what the value of ClickUp is. So if you're in financial management, use a financial management template to see how it could work. This will not really show you the value of ClickUp, but it will be helpful for staff members to learn how to use ClickUp. So that can be good. The second template is in a similar vein, but far more in depth, and it's called Practice with ClickUp, or Practice using ClickUp. So this one, same idea. Each task will teach you a concept about ClickUp, but it has more tasks and it goes to a greater depth. So here you can see, there's 12 different subtasks doing each of the things that you can do with tasks. Just an easy. And then you've got creating new tasks, subtasks, watchers, all the things that you kind of need to learn to really get your a handle on ClickUp. So this can be great for new staff members where they're coming into an existing hierarchy that's already been designed. There isn't any stuff in here about hierarchy design and kind of how to set up your company. It's really aimed at onboarding new staff members into an existing ClickUp setup. Cool, so that could be really helpful. Next up, we have a few onboarding resources under the help icon here. So if you click on help, this is our help center, and we have some onboarding videos. I would definitely recommend getting new staff members to watch these. They're kind of like 1 to 3 minutes each, and they'll give a really good basic idea of the structure of ClickUp. Next, we have these webinar recordings. So each one is about an hour long, typically between 50 minutes and an hour. And they're on all sorts of topics. So we have our upcoming ones that you're probably familiar with to get to this one. We also have all of our past webinars. So we have a beginner webinar that'd be very good for onboarding new staff members. Or if you're in a certain industry, there may be an industry one that matches that, which could also be potentially helpful. Okay. And we've also, of course, got videos. So we've got our YouTube channel, which is lots of training videos on it, as well as our docs, which are very helpful. You can easily find a doc for any single feature, and I'll walk you through how to use that feature. If you are looking for more of like the overview, that'll tend to be the webinars and the onboarding. Okay, cool. So let's talk about building a training. So if you're creating a training course, perhaps internally, or perhaps to share with others outside of your ClickUp to just train people in general, either way, you need a way for learners to step through the guidance and materials. And you typically want to track their progress and let them see what is coming up. So you can use ClickUp in a number of ways here. One option is just purely tracking, or you could have them answer questions on ClickUp, or you could put the full course content in either task descriptions or linked docs. So here are some suggestions. So for me, I'm going to use same thing as onboarding really. You could have a totally separate space just for training, if it is separate from the rest of your business, or you could have a training folder within the specific areas. So marketing might have their own training folder, and sales might have their own training folder, depending on what works better for you. So within our training folder, so look, in this case, let's do a training space. I'll delete these 3 onboarding folders. So within our training space here, we might have different trainings, or yeah, you'll probably divide it into different trainings with folders will be the most common. So let's say we have here I'm just going to say marketing training. What I would typically suggest is that you use, if you can, and not everyone can, if you can, I would suggest using tasks for the trainings. So let's say we have, and there's a few different ways to do this. I'm going to set it up as per person. So let's say this is the training for Linda. And then within that, I would set up the information in the description and then break it down into subtasks. So, we have, part 1 of what is a marketing topic. Let's say, pay-per-click. That's probably not a very good part 1, but whatever. Part 2, strategy, etc. And then within each of those subtasks, you could then have a description and checklist items. So you can kind of break it down this way. The reason I suggest this, if possible, is that because it's task-based, there are lots of really good reporting capabilities on tasks in ClickUp. I won't get into dashboards today, but you can filter on them, pull the data into dashboards, a whole bunch of things. So if you've just got simple, small trainings, I definitely recommend doing it as tasks, just for easy reporting. Okay, for a lot of people, that's not going to be the case. And so instead of having tasks as individual trainings, you're going to have lists. So here I'm going to go a list for Linda, and then within that list, you're going to have all your different tasks as the different topics. And then so within that, you then have again all of your task items here, description, and then you can break that down into subtasks. So pay-per-click might have 6 different parts to it, and each can be a subtask. This can still be reported on. You can report on a whole list the same way you'd report in a project. So you can kind of see like overall progress, and then drill down into specific task data within that. Yeah, we'll probably go into the reporting on that a little bit more next week in the advanced webinar. Cool. So in terms of the content here, it's going to be very similar to what we covered before. We're going to be using predominantly the description here to create course content, including linking and embedding. One thing that I didn't mention before that may be very useful is the ability to link to a doc. And obviously you can embed a Google Doc, but you can also just create a ClickUp doc and give it a name. So let's say, this is our marketing training, or, this might be just pay-per-click, but whatever. And we can see there, it created the document, embedded it into the description, and we can then open it and create a multi-page document here with all of our content. We can, of course, add attachments. So here we've got that doc that's attached. We can also add attachments either from a storage platform or just from your computer. If you do need to have kind of supplemental material, whether that be readings, examples, training, anything else that you have as a file that you want to attach to this task. Particularly good with training is here you may use the comments less for getting to know people, but you might use it more for asking for help. So if you do have a course facilitator, you might say, hey facilitator, I need help with this point, or I'm confused about this particular question. Can you help? So that way you can kind of have something of an interactive experience with your learners and your facilitators, so that you are getting some back and forth on questions and making sure everyone's getting it, learning what they need to do, and able to come out the other side of the training with a good knowledge. Again, I'd suggest using due dates for timing if you are on a schedule. If the training is just as you please, go at your own speed, then you don't need to worry about that. Currently, I've just got simple statuses here, so it's either done or not done, but you may wish to have more advanced statuses. So whichever place you're in, and here I could edit the statuses for just one list, or I could edit it for the whole folder, which will apply to all future lists. So I'll do that, and currently I'm just using the space statuses of to do and complete. I'm going to change that to custom. So here I might build out more of a useful workflow. So to do, that's probably a good status for things that the learner needs to learn. We've got in progress, that could be good. They can track what they've already started working on. But I might add one called review. And so once they've, if there's any questions in there, they might answer those questions and then put it in the review status. And then the reviewer can come and mark those questions. And maybe we'll consider that done. So we'll put it in the done status, so that in the reporting, any questions or any tasks in review will be considered having been done. And then maybe we'll change the close status to correct. And we might add another status for, let's say, changes needed. And we'll make that one orange. So we'll save that. And so now, a learner comes in, they say, okay, this one's to do, read the content. Once they're finished, once they've started, they'll put it in progress. And then once they are finished, they'll mark it as review. The reviewer will see that and then come in, look at the any answers, maybe mark it and say, this is good, not good, and then either mark it as correct or change is needed. And if you're doing a pass-fail system, you could instead have that like, fail or whatever. One thing that might also be good to add there is, so I just edited them on the list. I need to go to the folder. I might add one for, let's say like, let's just say question. I was going to say question for reviewer or question for facilitator, but that might be a bit long. So let's just say question, and let's make that one blue. And I like to kind of order them in the order they go in, so I'd probably put that one next. Not that it really matters. Awesome. Okay, so that's a bit of an idea of how you do a training. And so then you'd kind of build this out with as many tasks as you need, and the learner can just go through them at the pace they need and facilitate. I'm not going to go into it this week, but just do be aware we do have automations here that might be quite useful for alerting the reviewer when things go into the review status. So just putting that out there. Okay, and then we're going to go through building resources and materials, and then after that we'll jump to questions. So if you do have any questions, do remember to put them in that Q&A section and we'll go through those. So sometimes your intent is not so much to create like this structured tracked training system where you're watching the learner go through each step. Sometimes you just kind of want to create resources, things that are available for people in your company that they can peruse at their leisure, but you're not really kind of marking them off as they go through it. So I'd call those resources and materials, and there's a couple of ways of doing that in ClickUp. So the immediate one is obviously docs. So on any view or any location, so here we're currently clicked on a list, but we could do this at the folder level, at the space level as well. We can create a new view and make a doc view, and that'll create a doc, and that doc will be linked to this location, and you can access it from here. Or you can just create the doc itself in Docs Home, and Docs Home is where kind of all docs get collated. So you can see here I've got some that are private to just me, or actually I don't, but that's where they'll go. Some that are shared, and then just every doc that I have access to, and I can create a new doc here. So I'd create my new doc, type in what it's about. So let's say this is some material on project management best practices. Okay, great. And then we can have multiple pages. So that's our first page, and also the title of our doc. We can also add a second page, say part 1, part 2. And actually I want this, so project management best practices is the name of the doc, but I want this page to be called intro. Great, so I've got intro, part 1, part 2, and then within each of these pages I can have sub-pages. So this one is the topic of the stages of project management, and then maybe another page that is let's think, what else would you teach in a project management course? Having a mind blank. Okay, let's just say stage 1. Typically that is initiation. Cool, and then within those pages you can of course have sub pages. So basically what you can do is you can go down about 5 levels, and then each one of these levels can be collapsed. So you can say, okay, I don't want to see any of part 1 right now, or open it up in parts. Each of these pages can have a whole bunch of text. Try that again, text. You can also use your slash commands. So use the slash on your keyboard to access a whole bunch of different options. And of course, that allows you to access all of the embeds. So just general, any video or website, or the specific ones here as well to get you started. If you want to link a Google document of some type, a list of tasks from somewhere else in ClickUp, and then all of you have buttons, which can be handy, table of contents, which could be very good, particularly for trainings, and then some formatting as well. And tables might also be handy, bulleted list, dividers, that sort of thing. So kind of rich text available here, and you can build out obviously a really in-depth training course, or sorry, an in-depth material or reference document using all of these. Cool. Now once we've done all of that, we can then see it here, and we can add it to a location. So right now this is private to just me, and that might be fine. I may want to just share it with specific members though. So I'll choose exactly who it should be shared with, and they're the only people who'll be able to see it. Alternatively, I might just want it to be shown to everyone. So I'll share it with a location here. And currently it's on the everything level, but I might want to put it in a specific place. So actually I'm going to put it on my project management styles space, so that anyone with access to that space can now see this document. Perfect. And so let's have a look at what that looks like. If I go into my tasks here, I do have all my spaces hidden because they weren't relevant to this webinar, but I've got my project management style space here, and you can see we've got that document available up the top with our views. Probably not too relevant, but if you are sharing documentation outside of ClickUp, you can also, oops, wrong button. You can also share that publicly with a public link, and you can copy that, paste it wherever you want, or embed it into a website, etc. just so that you know. Okay, now, so that's kind of making a one single doc that everyone might access. What you could also do is make this specific to a person. So you can kind of set it up like a template, and then after maybe you've got the text, you might say, you know, now do this, and we'll use our / command with our checklist to create a checklist that can be ticked off. We say, you know, step 1, step 2, and because you're going to do this per person, you also have a notes section. We say, you know, write your notes here. And so they can basically mark this up as they go through the learning the content. So now instead of making this available to everyone, I'd probably keep it just private to me. But what I would do is make it into a template. So I'll go into this one and go on the top left here, save as template, give it a name. So say, you know, PM training, create as a template for everyone, that's fine. Save as template. And so now what I would do is, particularly if someone had their own kind of folder for training, I might make this on their folder as a view. But in this case, I deleted those ones. So I'm just going to create a new doc, and I'm going to use that template. So we'll say load a template, PM training, great. Use that. And we see here what it's done is it's added those pages. It won't delete kind of content that you've already got, but it will just add those extra pages. We're making a change, so it's going to get rid of that empty page. So that'll be helpful as well. And now I might rename this document to be the person. So I say, you know, Stacey's PM training. Great. And then I want to make sure that I share that specifically with her. I don't have Stacey in here, but I'll share this with Shane to show you what it looks like. So now I know that Stacey has access to that. And that's it. So I can do that, you know, a new doc every time we have a new staff member. If we did want to use the document, you know, use this style of giving information to them rather than a list or a folder. Just another option. Different things will match different situations better. Yeah, one thing to note is that document can be shared with guests also. So I'll jump into this document again. I'm going to click here, share with all members. Nope. So Shane, and then we've got all the guests here. If you did want to share a document with a guest specifically, also if you did share it with a location, let's say put this on our training and onboarding space, then that location can be shared with a guest. Except that I'm lying, spaces can't be, but lists can. Sorry, lists and folders can. So I'm actually just going to move this to our folder, which is marketing and training. Okay, so I've got a document on our folder here. Now I can add a guest to this here. So what I did there is I went to 3 dots and sharing information at the bottom. I wanted to point that out because within the doc view itself, we have edit permissions here. And here we can choose who's allowed to edit it and who can comment only or view only. So that can be very useful if you do want to maybe add a guest and then make them view only on this document. Okay, that's a whole bunch about docs. Apologies if that was too in-depth, but hopefully that will be helpful at some point. Okay, and the alternative to this, of course, is simply to create a series of tasks with the content in the description. You know, if you prefer not to use a document, and that can, of course, use all the same / commands. You can create content in just the same way. The only thing it doesn't have is kind of the page concept. Okay, that's about it for what I have for you today. So what we're going to do now is jump into questions, and we'll see what else you'd like to know. Okay, give me just a second here as I bring this all up. Okay, so it looks like we've got a few questions here and then lots that have already been answered. So first question, just under your URL, you have a variety of apps. No, okay. What you were looking at, these are shortcuts. That's a Google Chrome thing. So that's my personal setup. Each one of those goes to a website. They're nothing to do with ClickUp. I do also have these links. These are favorites. So these will just take me to a certain location within ClickUp, which is a wonderful feature that I absolutely love. So if you were talking about that, all you do to get that is go into the three dots on a view and add it to favorites down here. Okay, how can I change assignees for tasks in bulk? Good question. If someone leaves the company, how can I reassign their tasks? Yeah, very good question. So what I'm going to do is go into a space that has some more tasks in it. So we've got lots of tasks here. What you can do is select multiple tasks at once by clicking on the dot here. And this exists in most of the views. So and in the board view, the dot's just in a different place. So here the dot is on the task here. Some, like I think Gantt chart, don't have the multi-select option. So just use a view that does. So here I'm going to select lots, but actually I don't want to click on each single one. That would be way too slow. So what I'm going to do is hold down the Shift button on Windows and click here, and it'll select all that's in between. So that can be really helpful. There's also a select all button on each group. So now that I've done that, I have this bar up the top. And all I need to do to set assignees in bulk is go to the Set Assignees one and choose who to set. Now, if I already had some set, let's say this one already had me on it, and I wanted to remove that, all you need to do is just click it once, and that will set it for everyone. And then you get this little X. You can click on the X, and it will remove it. But let's say, for example, I want to set these all to Shane, because as we saw before, maybe this is all, Shane's tasks. So I'd select them all, and then assign Shane, all in one go, which is handy. Now you had a second question there, which was really good. If someone leaves the company, how can I reassign their tasks? So ClickUp is quite good at this. When someone leaves ClickUp, it will make them inactive, but it will leave tasks assigned to them. Now they can't access those tasks, they can't log in, but because the data is still there, you can still filter on it. So let's say, let's go to everything, all the tasks in our workspace, and let's say that a person has left. So let's say the assignee is, who should we choose? Let's say Willow. So let's say that Willow has left the company. I can quickly see all of his tasks, and I can select all of them. Now I can go into assignees and assign someone else. I could do it, one by one if I prefer, rather than doing it all at once. But if I prefer to just unassign them, that's certainly possible as well. So I'll click once, and I need it to not disappear. Okay, that's messing up for me right now. But yeah, you click once and then click again to remove them, and then assign whoever else you need. Okay, can we get access to your template in this webinar? Looks very good. Yes, there were 3 different templates that I mentioned. So if you go to the plus button on a space, there was in ClickUp at the top here. So you've got the remote work one, which is remote onboarding. Just kind of a quick list of a quick way to learn, functions in ClickUp. Or you have, I forget which one it's under. Not personal. Getting started. Yeah, practice using ClickUp, which is more of an in-depth, there's a task or subtask to get you to use each specific feature. Or if you just want to jump into actual onboarding, then we have under human resources, employee onboarding. Everything else I've used today has just been an example. So those 3 are the ones that actually have some meat in them. Okay, can the calendar link to Google Calendar? Yes, tasks that are created in ClickUp can be synced to your Google Calendar. Tasks that are created in your Google Calendar will not currently sync to your ClickUp calendar. How do I rename an existing template? Good question. Our template system right now is based on fairly, I'm going to say simple infrastructure, because it's actually really complex to build on the back end. But what I would do is maybe the easiest way, or actually whichever way. So if it's a task template, go into your templates from a task. If it's a folder template or a list template, you can do it from there. But actually this plus button on the space is best for folders and lists. We've got a new template center coming. It'll make this a smidge simpler. So what I would do is, if you don't have it already, I would use this. So let's use this one. And then I would resave it, give it a new name, and then I'd go back and delete the original one. It is a couple of steps, but that's just how it is at the moment until we improve it a little bit. Yep. So yeah, just resave it and then delete the original one. So to delete one is down there. Cool. Is there a limit on the number of tasks you can select and edit? I don't believe so. If you are selecting more than, I'm going to say 1,000, I would suggest it might start to go slow. But other than that, I don't believe so. So, I mean, I don't think I have got too many in here. But yeah, I can edit all of these at once. That's no problem at all. Okay, while I'm loading all of these, how does the function or reassigning tasks when someone leaves a company account? Okay, hold on. I'm going to have to read that one in a bit more depth to make sure I'm passing it right. So let's just select all of these. This is, how many tasks is this? 312 tasks, and that's going to be no worries at all to edit. So I've got a zoom toolbar at the top here that I have to try and navigate around. But let's say set assignees here, and let's assign Willow to all of these. No stress. Okay, so this next question. How does the function or reassigning tasks when someone leaves a company account for tasks in private spaces? Okay, I think I understand here. So if someone had a private space and you don't have access to their tasks, how do you reassign them? Good question. Simple answer is, if you're not an admin or owner, you won't have access to those tasks even after they leave. If you are an admin or owner, you can gain access to them. You can gain access to spaces. So in this little spaces settings area here, which will be accessible to owners and admins, if you have an inaccessible space, which means to say that it's a space that has no members because the member has left, you can take over that space. In terms of private tasks in a public space, I'd have to think harder on that one. In general, we're pretty big on privacy. We don't really like making private tasks accessible to others. Generally, if the task was private, it shouldn't need to be transferred to someone else because someone's just made that task for themselves. If there is a big issue with that, probably contact support would be your best option. Okay. When I write in a language, English, it can be accessed in another country by another language. I think the question here is, does it automatically translate? The answer would be no. That being said, if you are using Google Chrome, Google will sometimes automatically translate things, but we as ClickUp will not automatically translate. Okay, once I set the dates in a parent task, can it remap all other tasks once that date changes, even though they were set on a contingency and not a timeline? I'm not 100% sure I understand the question there, but I believe the answer is yes. So in this space, I'm going to go into my space settings, and we have a ClickUp here for Remap Sub Task due dates. So if I have a parent task, let's go in and make one. So I've got a parent task here. Let's give it some subtasks. So let's give the parent task a due date of today and the subtask a due date of today. Then if I were to move the parent task due date to tomorrow, It's going to ask me if I also want to change the subtasks. If I say yes, then it will move the subtask also. So I think that will answer what you're looking for there. Okay, can multiple people from different organizations join and have the same functionality as each other? You can invite multiple people to your workspace, and those people can have any email address, and they can all work on the things that you've, or they can all work on the stuff in your workspace. They may also have their own workspace, and they could jump from your one to their own one. I might jump into this one here. The only thing is they can't transfer information between them. They're totally separate. But yes, you can have people from outside of your organization join your workspace, either as full members, or you can simply share one thing with them, a folder, a list, or a task, specifically as a guest. So you can just type in their email here. So I'm not totally sure if I've answered that question fully, but I think that's what you're trying to get at. Are there people profile templates? No, there's not a lot of information to currently enter on the profile. So if you click on someone's icon here and it's got a profile button, you can see their profile, and that gives you an idea of what tasks they've been working on, what they've got in their lineup, what's kind of coming up for them, and what they have assigned for them. But there's no real information to enter here, so there's nothing to really template. The only actual enterable thing is a description, which is public to everyone. How can I copy paste custom fields from one list to another existing list? Okay, there's a couple of options there. Let's create a second list on this folder. So if we have a custom field here, let's just make a drop-down one, call it drop-down, and put in some options. If we want to use this on a second list, we can simply go into the add a column, and instead of creating a new one, we'll use an existing field, go into our drop-down, and that's too many, so let's search for the one called drop-down. We can see it's being used in Linda, that's great, and we'll use that field. So now we have it on both. That's probably the simplest way. Yep. Okay. Yes, I know this doc, just asking, maybe you have some updates. ClickUp implements new features pretty fast. Yes, we do. If there will be a select goal target in the task menu faster. Okay, so that sounds like a feature request. I'm not 100% sure what exactly you're meaning in the task menu. I think you're meaning adding a task to a goal quickly. And yes, I totally agree. That would be a very helpful thing. And it is something we've had in mind. We've been thinking about how to make goals better for quite a long time. Okay, and how is the reporting here? I need to be able to see which tasks are moved, open, closed per person, per group. We have reporting, but in terms of reporting on opening, no, we don't. We have something like that. So in terms of seeing what's moved, you'll have the activity items here. So in each task, there's an activity item. You can also have an activity view on any list, folder, or space, or everything, which shows you all the activity that's happened in that space. So you could filter it just for list moved. So you want to see just the instances of something being moved between a list. And it will show you who did that. But it's yeah. So yeah, some options there. In terms of opening tasks, we have Pulse, which kind of shows you what people have been working on recently. So if I click on myself, you can see which tasks I've had open today. And you can go back in time if you're on I think it's a business plan. So you see, okay, what tasks I had open yesterday. we're not really designed as like a really, top-down enforcement type model. So there are some things you can do there, but it's not kind of the purpose of the platform, if that makes sense. Okay, Anthony says, thanks, I created a drop-down list instead of tags. How to change type without recreating it. That one's tough. So yeah, so the easiest way is to go to the everything level or whichever level you need to see all those tasks. And then I would filter for each drop-down option. So, say you've got all these options. Okay, I'd filter for good. Okay, in this case, there's none. This may not actually be a field that I'm currently using. Okay, let's pick one that I am using. But basically, I'd filter for each different value, and then I'd bulk apply the tags. I've got so much stuff in this demo account, it's going to be a little bit tough to find one that's actually in use. Here we go. So I've got all of my ones that are on track, and then I'd select all of them, and then apply the tag that I wanted. I've got it turned off in some spaces, so it's not available here, but if you've got it on, it will be. And then I'd go to the next value and apply the new tag, next value, apply the new tag, and then delete the custom field at the end. So yeah, it'll take a little bit of work, but you only have to do kind of one action per value, which is at least hopefully less work. Okay, let's do maybe 5 more questions, and then we'll probably be about out of time. Can I have guests that can only check the items they have finished and write in conversations? Yeah, so there's 4 different permission levels. So this list is shared with 0 people. That's strange, it's a private one. Let's go into this one. So I've got a task here. I'm going into the sharing and permissions. This is the people it's shared with. And the 4 permission levels are can view, can comment, can edit, or full permissions. So you can limit them to can comment. So that means that they can write comments and join in the conversations. They can mark the task in a different status if they've been assigned to it. Once they're unassigned, they can no longer do that. They probably can't tick off subtasks or checklists, but if you do put the checklist in a comment and assign it to them, then they should be able to check it off. So if you go /checklist and then write item 1, item 2, item 3, and then assign that to them, then they can tick those off. But can comment, they won't have access to check off subtasks and checklist items. Okay. If I have procedures in which a task has to be approved by supervisor, can it be done here? What I'd typically suggest is setting up a workflow like this that has a review step. And then when that hits the review, the supervisor is the one who moves it from review to finished, or whatever your final status is. And you can set up automation to automatically alert them. We don't have kind of like command and control features to forcibly not allow other people to put it in correct. So it does take some management practices of what's okay and what's not okay. But you can certainly set up that workflow. Okay, so a super admin reporting dashboard. No, we don't really have like a back end that's like allows you to snoop on everyone. We do have dashboards in general, which allow a whole bunch of reporting capabilities, but it's more about understanding the work, understanding what's happening with tasks, rather than kind of tracking people's activity. We definitely do have activity logs, but it's in that activity view and on each task. So everyone can see that. I would like to share with my team what was opened, what was closed, and what was moved, with which tags and categories. Share with my team. So that sounds like in a presentation or a weekly meeting. You could go through the activity view if you wanted. What would be easier through dashboards is just showing which tasks are in which statuses. Like the movement through statuses is a very common thing to report on. Showing like an overview of which tasks were moved between lists is not as easy. Tags and categories also quite functional through dashboards. We might go into that more next week. Speaking of user roles, is it possible that a user can only see the task created by them while on a list or board? Yes, so the simple way is to click this Me Mode button, and then you'll only see tasks assigned to you. So currently I have none. If I hovered over a task here and pressed M, which would assign it to me, and then I would only see that task. If you're talking about forcibly limiting them to only that, that takes more effort. But yeah, the Me Mode is very helpful for quickly seeing just your own tasks. Okay, I think that's it for today. So thank you very much for coming to our webinar here. I hope you found a lot of value in that, and I may see you next week for the advanced webinar. All right, have a great day.